بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، Hassan al-Muthanna, also known as Hassan the Second, son of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, emerged on the battlefield. When he emerged, he was struck from every angle, having fought valiantly until he was at the receiving end of 18 wounds, and his right hand was cut off, but he was taken back into the tents. After him, Abu Bakr, the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam, came out onto the battlefield. Again, he fought valiantly until he was killed by Zajr al-Nakha'i. After him, Abdullah, who came forward as the son of Aqil, fought valiantly and bravely against the opposition of Umar bin Sa'ad's army until he was beheaded by Uthman bin Khalid al-Tamimi. After him, another of the sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, also known as Abdullah al-Akbar, who was the son of Ramla, came forward and fought valiantly, and he was also slain. Then his brother from the same mother came forward by the name of Qasim ibn al-Hassan. When Qasim came forward, many saw him, but Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam began to cry and hugged him as he was emerging on the battlefield. He was wearing his shirt, his trousers, he had his sword with him, and he had also a pair of sandals. At that moment, you saw his face was like the shining moon. He came forward in front of the opposition army, and he called out the famous lines, إن تنكروني فأنا نجل الحسن سبط النبي المصطفى والمؤتمن هذا حسين كالأسير المرتهن بين أناس لاصق صوب المزون. The first of our loud salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Second even louder salawat in honor of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Allahumma salli. A third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asri wa zaman. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. 1:50 p.m., the 10th of Muharram, and we're in the final few hours of the lives of Bani Hashim. And now it's the turn for Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam to be represented in Karbala. Indeed, you find that unfortunately, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, until today, does not get the credit that he deserves. Even when you look at the mentality of many of the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, you'll see that many of us will talk of the bravery of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Hardly will you ever see anyone mention the bravery of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. Even when it comes to our majalis, There are many who will turn up on the nights of Muharram and come to Majalis al-Hussein alayhi salam. But that same passion does not necessarily exist for Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. As in, if I were to ask you now, name me the names of the sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam who were present at Karbala, I guarantee you that the majority of the people will maybe only mention Qasim ibn al-Hassan. Then there might be some who might mention another son. But the reality is that on the 10th of Muharram, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam had at a minimum on the plains of Karbala 5 sons representing him. Our majalis tend to only speak about Qasim alayhi salam. And while speaking about Qasim, without a doubt, is an honor, there were other sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam who represented him in the most amazing way. But that in reality is a metaphor for our lack of a relationship with Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. While many of us may know about Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, if you were to ask us about the biography of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, that we would not know. The reality is that Imam al-Hussein and Imam al-Hassan have as much to do with the victory of Islam and the saving of Islam and the purity of Islam as each other. There is not one situation where, for example, that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam done all of what he done by himself. No. Number one, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam looks at his elder brother as his imam. That's the first thing. Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam is the highest, higher than Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Number two, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, no doubt, it was his decisions in his lifetime that either safeguarded the religion of Islam or paved the way for what took place in terms of people realizing between truth and falsehood. But when you look at Karbala, you see someone like Qasim ibn al-Hassan. Where does Qasim get all this bravery from? Where does Qasim get this sincerity from? This must be a case where the apple does not fall far from the tree. At the end of the day, when Qasim alayhi salam and others emerge, they must have some sort of bravery that they've inherited from somewhere. But when you look at the term bravery, hardly ever do you associate it with Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. Hence you find that even amongst the Shia world, there are those who will say, live like Ali and die like, why not Hassan? Why not? So why did we jump? What happened? Imam al-Hassan is not worth dying like? If you look at even the political view of the Shia world, they'll say that you have to be Husseini. No one mentions Hassani. When the reality is that in some opinions of some ulama, not all, but some, they say that had Imam al-Hassan been at Karbala, he would have done what he'd done. And had Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam had to face what he faced earlier, he would have done what Imam al-Hassan would have done. So what we find therefore is even our mentality with Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam has to change. It cannot continue to be, who's your favorite imams? Oh, Imam Ali and Imam al-Hussein. And how about Imam al-Hassan? Why is he not your favorite? What has he done wrong for him not to be in the highest esteem? Therefore tonight, let us examine in depth, on the one level, the inheritance of the attributes of the sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, but also let us examine and have an understanding of the sons of Imam al-Hassan and the daughters who were present at Karbala, those of them who survived and those of them who were killed on that day. First and foremost, when we come to Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, those martyrs from the sons of Imam al-Hassan at Karbala, they would not be who they are if they did not have the bravery of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. Someone says, what do you mean the bravery of Imam al-Hassan? When I think bravery, normally I would think Imam Ali is brave. Badr, Uhud, Khandaq, Khaybar, Hunayn. Yes, in those days, Imam Ali alayhi salam no doubt was the bravest. And even years later, Imam was the bravest. But then, when Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam grew up, in the time of the Khilafah of Imam Ali alayhi salam, we know that Imam al-Hassan was in his early 30s. Imam al-Hassan on the battlefield was the most ferocious warrior of the army of Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Nobody would come near Imam al-Hassan and how ferocious he was. And that's why the best example of this could be where? It could be seen on the Battle of Jamal. Because in the Battle of Jamal, there were two types of rayas, or two types of banners, or two types of alamdars on that day. One of them was the person who holds the flag of the army. Imam Ali alayhi salam, he had someone who used to hold the flag of his army. On the army of the opposition, the camel was the flag bearer. That camel was the center of the army of the opposition. In other words, Imam Ali alayhi salam says to his son, who was present on that day, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah, he says to him, my son, go out towards the battlefield. I want you to make sure that you strike a spear into the thorax of that camel. Because when that camel, and that's why the battle is called Jamal, when that camel falls, then it's like the flag bearer of the opposition falls as well. And then that army will be in disarray. Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah was a warrior. But when he got near that camel, there was a whole tribe who were protecting that camel. They knew that camel was the center. They knew that the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa was in the carriage on that camel. They were called Bani Dhubba. Bani Dhubba were ferocious warriors. You wouldn't want to go near them. And therefore you found that when Muhammad ibn Hanafiyyah tried as much as he could to get through them, he couldn't get through them. He came back towards his father. As he came back towards his father to apologize that he was not able to get through, as he was coming back, Imam al-Hassan took the spear from him. He took the spear and went directly into the army of the opposition. Bani Dhubba, one by one, Imam al-Hassan cut them to pieces. Finished them one by one until he got to the camel of the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa, and he thrust the spear directly into that camel. When that spear was thrust into the camel, you all know the rest of the story. She was on the top of the camel. The spear was thrust. The camel, the carriage on top, she fell from. As she was falling, another of the companions of Imam Ali alayhi salam held her. To which she famously said the lines, when she said, remove your hands from the body of the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa, for you are not mahram to me. To which he replied, I am Muhammad, son of Abu Bakr, your brother, holding you. So therefore what you had was that Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, in that battle, his bravery was clear for all to see. This image that we have that Imam al-Hassan's passive, not at all. Safin at the front, Nahrawan at the front. Even when his father was killed, Imam al-Hassan did not want to rest in Kufa. He wanted to go towards Sham. Because Imam Ali alayhi salam, before he died, he had made a plan that week that I'm going to take an army to Sham to finish Muawiyah's rule. Imam Ali got killed. Imam al-Hassan was ready. But then when Imam al-Hassan looked around, he saw an army with vested interests. Some of their interests were in Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam. Some of their interests were in, for example, the materials of this world. Therefore, on the first level, when I look at the sons of Imam al-Hassan at Karbala, the bravery, number one, is inherited from a man like this. That on the battlefield, their father, no one could come near him from any of the members of Ahl al-Bayt alayhi salam. Imam al-Hussein used to look up to Imam al-Hassan. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas alayhi salam. When Imam al-Hassan died, Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas at the time was still a young man, still in his early 20s, when Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam died. And you found that Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas would train with Imam al-Hassan, would learn sword skills with Imam al-Hassan. He used to love his elder brother. And that's why on the second level, one way is that Imam al-Hassan has bravery. But there's something interesting about his sons at Karbala. They are also full of sincerity. You look at the sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam in Karbala. Even though some were young, some were a bit older, yet you still see them begging for them to go out and defend the religion of Islam. Their whole life was like their father. Their father was the embodiment of dedication towards the religion. That's why even when he was dying, when the poison was all over his body, you all know the lines of this moment. He's in so much pain. And Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam says to him, my brother, I see you in pain. Tell me who it is that's done this to you. And he simply replies that I probably know who it is, But we will see what happens to them eventually. Allah will decide what happens to them. And then while he sees Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam in pain, he says to him, Aba Abdullah, there is no day like your day. Yes, imagine that he could at that moment focus only on himself, that my pain, my trouble, my difficulty. No, there is no day at all like your day, Aba Abdullah. That day is the one that will hurt us the most. And therefore, on that basis, Imam al-Hassan knew he would not be at Karbala. He wanted to make sure that he left a sadaqah jariyah behind. 2 points emerge here, focus on them. Number one, if you want to see the legacy of those around Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, look at how their sons helped the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, then you'll know where they are. Focus on this point. Who were the closest people around the Prophet? Abu Bakr, Umar, people like Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas. People like this were known as the people in Islamic history, as always around the Prophet in physical proximity. No one can deny that. You look at the books of history, in physical proximity, nobody would be as close to the Prophet as those who are normally regarded as the 10 who are granted paradise. Do we agree? Irrespective of belief and conclusion, they were always around the Prophet. They had sons. And all of these sons, Abu Bakr had sons, Umar had sons, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas had sons, Zubair had sons, Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam had sons. If you want to see their legacy, all of these, ask yourself the question, how did their sons react to when Imam al-Hussein was left alone in Karbala? Look at all of them. The first Khalifa, his son Abdul Rahman was alive. He did not come to the aid of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. They all knew that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa had said, Inni tarikun fikum al-thaqalain. And they knew that Rasulullah had said, قُلْ لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا إِلَّا الْمَوَدَّةَ فِي. They all knew. Abu Bakr's son, Abdul Rahman bin Khalid, Abdul Rahman, the son of Abu Bakr, he was around at the time of Karbala, did not come to help Imam al-Hussein. Abdullah bin Umar ibn al-Khattab was around at the time of Karbala, did not help Imam al-Hussein. Abdullah ibn Zubair was around at the time of Karbala, did not help Imam al-Hussein. Umar bin Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, did not help Imam al-Hussein. He ended up dying as the worst of the worst. All of these, you want to see the legacy someone leaves, you sometimes look at their children. Isn't that true? I want to know that person, what legacy has he left with his children? Mawadda of Al Muhammad or no? Because ultimately, whether you're Shia or you're not Shia, love of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam is something for all Muslims. When I therefore look at these personalities, I notice that none of them, their sons, came to the aid of the grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa. They all had sons alive. You would think a father would say that if you ever see Hussein bin Ali stranded in a place, make sure you're with him. You'd think that there's a simple line. It's a simple wasiyah. The first Khalifa's son was not present. And he was alive and he did not come to the aid. The second Khalifa's son, alive, did not come to the aid. Zubair's son, Abdullah, alive, did not come to the aid. Umar, son of Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, we all know what happened with him. And subhanallah, you find, but of them, Imam al-Hassan made sure his son was there for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. And not just his son, a group of sons. When we come to this group of sons who were present at Karbala, what do we see? Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam had married a number of wives. Not as much as Bani Abbas made. You know, Bani Abbas by the end said that Imam al-Hassan had married 300 ladies and he was constantly divorcing and so on. And I always believe that Bani Abbas had a lot more hate for Ahlul Bayt than Bani Umayyah. But that's another discussion. Imam al-Hassan, in his lifetime, he had married 7 wives. And this is the average for the Imams of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. I sometimes, in light humor, I sometimes say that our ladies, may Allah bless them, they follow Ahlul Bayt in absolutely everything Ahlul Bayt do. But when you tell them the Imams of Ahlul Bayt also married 7, I don't think they're willing to share with anyone else. On that particular teaching, they're like, no, sorry about that. Or they may have another answer that if you are like Imam al-Hassan, then why not? And you can hear the very true. When Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, Imam has married how many? Imam has married 7 in his lifetime. Of them, you had the good, the bad, and the ugly. Subhanallah, you could be the holiest personality in the religion of Islam, and you could still have as a wife who is an absolute shaitan on this earth. True? It can happen. As in, the best example is who? Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, his wife in the Quran, Allah made her an example for the kafir, for the disbeliever. ضرب الله مثلا الذين كفروا امرأة نوح وامرأة لوط. The wife of Noah, one of the worst ladies you'll ever come across, conspiring against the prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Someone will say, but she is married to a prophet, so Jannah awaits her. Allah's like, nah, no Jannah for her. In Surah Al-Tahrim, Allah literally destroys her and destroys the wife of Nabi Lut alayhi salam. Subhanallah, not one wife of a prophet, but 2 wives. Someone says, but if they're connected to a prophet, that means I must respect them because they are married to the prophet. Then respect Abu Lahab, why don't you? Because Abu Lahab is the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu. Why don't you respect him? Oh no, Sayyidina, we can't because Abu Lahab, this, that. The reality is, it's not about who you're married to. If you're married to someone and you are arrogant, you're married to someone, you have no taqwa, you're married to someone and you're conniving, then what's the point? I'm amazed when I see Muslims out there who say to you, but she is the wife of a prophet. If she's the wife of the prophet, okay, well done. And alhamdulillah, you're the wife of a prophet. How you behave with that prophet, number 1. How you behave after that prophet dies also. I can't get a pass because I lived with a prophet like Nuh alayhi salam for 9-10 years. After, say I was religious with Nabi Nuh alayhi salam and I lived with him all these years, and then when Nabi Nuh alayhi salam died, all of a sudden after he died, I don't pray anymore, I don't fast anymore. Or maybe I pray and fast, but I'm the biggest fitna maker in the community, for example. If I'm the biggest fitna maker in the community, then it doesn't mean because I'm married to someone holy. Someone says, then why were these prophets married to these ladies? Because sometimes it's a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do you think? That Allah in the Quran, you all know the ayah, the people think that we're not going to test them after having created them. There's going to be a test for all of you. Imam al-Hassan, one of his wives who gave him no children whatsoever, alhamdulillah rabbil alameen, was who? Was Ju'da, the daughter of Al-Ash'ath bin Qais. Yeah? Ju'da, the daughter of Al-Ash'ath, it's probably the worst family you could marry into, and that's why, subhanAllah, sometimes the marriages of Ahlul Bayt, alayhim salam, not easy to understand, except possibly either they have a knowledge from Allah that this is a imtihan or a bala for you, or because of political reasons. At the end of the day, Qais ibn al-Ash'ath, Muhammad ibn al-Ash'ath, and so on, politically were very strong. Maybe there was a need to make that political decision. In the same way, Rasulullah married Habiba, the daughter of Abu Sufyan, for example. Ju'da bint al-Ash'ath gave him no children. Now when we get to the other wives, now it's interesting when we get to the other wives of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. Another wife was Ishaq, the daughter of Talha. This wife, when Imam al-Hassan, just before he died, he told Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, she's going to be my widow. I want you to marry her, please. After I die, I want you to look after this lady. That was Ishaq. Then we get to the ladies who gave him children. Who are the ladies who gave him children on the 10th of Muharram? Who are those? Now, if I speak to Iraqis, or I speak to Pakistanis, or I speak to Khoja, Lebanese, Afghan, Iranian, the different multifaceted, mashallah, crowds that we have amongst us who are lovers of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, if I come to them, I say, so who's Qasim's mum? We're going to hear a whole group of different answers. Some will say Qasim, if we come to the order of the sons, how many were there in Karbala? 5 in Karbala. Let's come to Karbala and say there were 5. And who's the eldest of them? If you noticed in the maqtal that I recited just now, eldest of the sons of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam is called Abu Bakr. And now we have a pause. because this is one to reflect upon. Eldest of the sons of Imam al-Hassan is called? Okay. Abu Bakr is not necessarily a name we're going to all be naming in 9 months' time. A person, for example, is not going to say, okay, I can't wait to name this name, because of obviously the differences that we have in terms of the succession of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. But we know very well that nobody, and this is a fundamental point, nobody has a monopoly on any kunya or on any name. Nobody can say, because he's called it, that means he's the only one who can be named it. At the end of the day, these are names that can be applied to different characters in Islamic history. If I look at Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Ali had a son called Umar. Yes. Brother of Imam al-Hussein, probably one of the worst humans to have ever lived. But this person, son of Imam Ali, who did not help Imam al-Hussein, who actually felt that Imam al-Hussein was a failure, but Imam names his son Umar. Why? Umar bin Muqrin was one of the companions who was the son of Salama, who Imam used to love, who says that that name belongs to one person always. Imam Ali had a son called Uthman, but he said, I named him after Uthman bin Mad'un. When I therefore come to Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, Imam al-Hassan of the eldest sons in Karbala was that son by the name of Abu Bakr, who people say his name, because Abu Bakr is a title. Yes, it's not a name. They say his name was Abdullah al-Akbar. Abdullah al-Akbar. He was 35 years of age on the 10th of Muharram. Remember that his father, in reality, his father would have been, had he been alive on the 10th of Muharram, his father would have been, had he been alive, how old? 58, let's say? Had he been alive. If you minus 35 from 58, what does that give us? 23, which is realistic, because if I say that Qasim was the eldest son of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, that would mean that Imam al-Hassan had Qasim very, very late, which doesn't add up at all. Rather, number one, the eldest son, who is the son of Ramla. Now, we come to Ramla. Ramla is who is the mother of Abdullah al-Akbar and is also the mother of who? Qasim. Now, in some cultures, you say Farwa. I don't know who Farwa is. I'll be very frank. And, you know, maybe there are some historians out there who may know who Farwa is. But for me, when I look at the names of Imam al-Hassan's wives, I see Ju'da bint al-Ash'ath. I see Ishaq bin Talha. I see Khawla. She's there. Narjis. She is there. I see Ramla, she's there. So where this Farwa comes from, I'm not too certain. What I see with Ramla is that the opinions are that 3 of the sons of Imam al-Hassan in Karbala were from his wife Ramla, and that Ramla was in Karbala. In contrast to Ali al-Akbar's mother, where there is less clear proofs about her in Karbala, whereas Ramla, no. Ramla was a lady of very high reputation. She was from the Bujayla tribe. You know, sometimes you see in the Maqatil literature, the Bajalis. These are hardcore Shia. Her uncles, Salil and Jarir, were alongside Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam in the Battle of Siffin. Phenomenal warriors. And I wouldn't be surprised, therefore, that their niece has a son like Abdullah or like Qasim. So she had Abdullah al-Akbar and she had Qasim. As for the third son, there is a difference of opinion as to the name of the third son. What we do know is that the name could possibly be of the third son, Amr, or, in my opinion, Abdullah al-Asghar. So what do we have? We have Abdullah al-Akbar. I told you, Ahl al-Bayt, when they love a name, they stick on that name. Yes? Ali al-Akbar, Ali Asghar, Ali Zain al-Abidin, or Zainab al-Kubra, Zainab al-Ukhra, Zainab al-Wasta. And that's why it's so hard when you're doing historical analysis, which Zainab, which Ali, which Abdullah. Abdullah al-Asghar, who do we have now? We have the son Abdullah al-Akbar, who we said was killed. We said we have Abdullah al-Asghar. All of you know the story of Abdullah al-Asghar. Look at Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam embodied by his sons. Imam al-Hussein, when he was lying on the earth of Karbala, arrows all over his body. When he was lying there, Abdullah was one of the youngest of the sons. He was in his tent, he was near his mom, his auntie Zainab was there. And then he was looking at the opposition while seeing his father try and move one side and the other. When I come to the next 2 nights, now we're at 1:50. Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam died at 4:06 p.m. on the 10th of Muharram. And in reality, when we come to analyze the next couple of nights, we'll see that Imam al-Hussein for over an hour lay on the earth of Karbala. Okay? This Abdullah al-Asghar, son of Imam al-Hassan. We said Imam Hassan, 5 sons in Karbala. This Abdullah al-Asghar, while he was seeing his mum is in pain, having seen what she's gone through, then he saw his uncle alone on the earth of Karbala. He ran out of the tent because he could not bear to see his uncle with no one there. As he was running out, his auntie Zainab said, "Come back, come back." He said, "How could I come back? And my uncle lies alone there." He went and he sat by his uncle. Look at the bravery of Imam al-Hassan embodied where? Subhanallah, in his sons. It's like Jamal became Karbala. True? He went and sat by his uncle and literally faced them like this. You have to shoot me before you shoot my uncle. Harmala bin Kahil, la'natullah alayh. He pulled an arrow and he struck him directly on the arm in a way where that arm could not move anymore. And he just turned around to his uncle and he virtually slept next to Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam because of the bleeding of that moment. So Ramla had who? Ramla had Abdullah al-Akbar, Abdullah al-Asghar. Khawla, she had who? Khawla al-Fizariya. The Fizaris were a very big Kufan tribe. Khawla had Hassan al-Muthanna. Hassan al-Muthanna, in English, Hassan the second. Imam al-Hassan named the son of his Hassan the second. This Hassan al-Muthanna, when he went out on the battlefield, he went after Aun and Muhammad. When he came out on the battlefield, he fought valiantly until he had 18 wounds all over his body, according to the Maqatil. And one of the wounds was so strong, it cut off his right hand. And he fell there on the ground. But luckily, Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam managed to get to him before the opposition took him there. On Sham al-Ghariban, when they saw him with his hand off, injured, wounds everywhere, Umar bin Sa'ad said, "This one cannot do anything to us. Let him go." Number 2, Umar bin Sa'ad said, and his khawal, his uncles, maternal, are Fizaris. And the Fizaris were a very huge tribe. So listen to this line, all of you. And I will come back to this line shortly. And that is that he said, don't also trample on his body. Why? Because in the army of Yazid, they were there, the Fizaris were present. And they are Khawla's cousins. So when they were there on the night of the 11th of Muharram, or I should say afternoon going into night in terms of chronology, when Umar bin Sa'ad had turned around and said, "Sharpen the hooves of your horses." Yes, the famous lines. You sharpen the hooves of your horses. That's why even sometimes when I see these horseshoes on people's doors, these are sometimes things I begin to wonder why and how these things emerged. I think there's a backdrop to these types of things. Anyway, sharpen the hooves of your horses. And Umar bin Sa'ad asked his soldiers, "I want you to go and trample on Hussein's companions, all of them. Trample all over their bodies." And the Fizaris came out and they said, wait. This Qasim, his mom, this person, Hassan al-Muthanna, his mom, she is what? She is one of us. So don't even go near his body, even if he's still alive. He's alive. Don't kill him and trample on his body. You want to do it to someone else. Luckily, even Ramla, the mother of Qasim and all of them, she also had family in the opposition in Karbala. So even when it came to Qasim, the leaders said that we couldn't, because some of the tribe members have said, you've already killed the young man, do not trample all over his body. If you had a tribe in the army of Yazid, your body was going to be preserved to a certain extent. You may have got a beheading. Habib ibn Madahir got his head taken off. Unlike Hur bin Yazid al-Riyahi, who Bani Riyah came forward and said, leave his head intact, do not touch his head. So what do we have now? We have Khawla, her son Hassan al-Muthanna lived after Karbala, stayed for a year in Kufa, and then he ended up, or he had married, according to different opinions, he had already married Fatima, the daughter of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, his cousin. So where are we now? Abdullah al-Akbar, valiant, Karbala, killed. Abdullah al-Asghar, killed. We come to Hassan al-Muthanna, survived. We have another son of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam by the name of Amr, who also fought on the plains of Karbala. And they say that he also survived the plains. Another son of Imam al-Hassan did not come to Karbala. This is interesting. Just because you're an imam does not mean tawfiq happens to all your sons. Ask Nabi Yaqub, he'll tell you a good story. At the end of the day, because you're an imam doesn't mean all your sons are going to be that pure. He had a son called Zayd. Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam had a son called Zayd who did not come to Karbala to help Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. He didn't turn up. He was around, but he never turned up to Karbala to help Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. So therefore, how many do we have? We also have some opinions that the daughters of Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam, a daughter or daughters were with Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam as amongst the captives. Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam had two daughters, Hassan and Hussein. And one of them, who was known as Fatima, was at Karbala with the family of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Therefore, you look at Imam al-Hassan's representatives in Karbala. One of them, his arm is chopped off and killed. Another, his hand is cut and he survives. Another, he is beheaded. Another. He had representatives that proved a sadaqah jariyah for him. On this note, before I enter the last of those sons, there's an important point. Non-Shia say Imam al-Hassan and Muawiyah became best friends. We always hear this, yes? That they made peace with each other, peace treaty and so on. The best way to disprove that they were best friends was to look at the behaviors after that treaty 20 years later. Hussein on one side and Yazid on the other. Anyone who comes and tells you that look at Imam al-Hassan, if he didn't respect Muawiyah, then why he made a sulh with him? Clearly, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Look at Yazid and look at Hussein. Two completely different worlds. And in Yazid's world, from the hate that he had for Bani Hashim, it doesn't matter how young the man is or how old the man is. It doesn't matter. I want all those soldiers to make sure they rip his body into pieces. And if ever it took its toll on Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, then it took its toll when he looked at Qasim, his nephew. Yes? That was one that took its toll. Because now who's left? Who's left on the plains of Karbala? Literally now, on the plains of Karbala, we literally have 4 or 5 of the males who are left to fight. Tomorrow we go to Abbas and his brothers, inshallah. For as you know, we're going chronologically. That's all that's left now. And you had Qasim ibn al-Hassan and his brothers. Qasim was a soft spot for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, no doubt. And in reality, when you look at the literature, you find that their interaction, his particular moments, they broke Imam alayhi salam. Because even in the Maqatil, his brothers, they get killed. Imam is hurt. Imam goes and brings back their body. But there was something about Qasim that is different in the Maqatil literature. What it is, only Allah knows what it is. But when you read the Maqatil, you see what it says. That Abdullah al-Akbar came out, he got killed. Abdullah al-Asghar came out. But then when it says Qasim, he came out and his face shone like the bright moon. Imagine. Could be a group of brothers, but the fingers are not all the same. All of these brothers had some nur, but this one, his nur shone like the bright moon. And for Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, he would converse with him before Ashura, asking him, how do you view death? It's one of the most beautiful interactions between an uncle and his nephew. How do you view death? And the reply was simple. Death is sweeter to me than honey. Why? Because it's alongside you, Abu Abdullah. Then death is sweet. I die, and I die on the love of the Imam of my time. First. Secondly, on my uncle as well. My uncle whose heart is broken. When Qasim went towards his mom, he said to her, Mom, can I go and fight? Can I be next? All Ali al-Akbar has died. And Aoun and Muhammad and the sons of Aqil and the sons of Ja'far, all of them have died. He came and he said, Mom, can I go now? She said, it's not my command, you going or not. You go to the Imam of your time and you ask him, young man. Look at the way that mum has instilled the concept of the Imam of the time in the children. That's the Imam of your time, go and ask him. He came to him, he said to him, Uncle, can I go now? My elder brothers, Hassan al-Muthanna, was elder. His other brother by the name of Abdullah al-Akbar, as we know, was elder. These were all elders. They said, can I go? And he looked at him and he said to him, my nephew, my son, no, I don't want you to go. You go and look after your mom. Go and sit with your mom and so on. And he returns back to his mom. And it's one of the saddest interactions you'll ever see. Because he looks at his mom and he says to her, he said to me, no, that I cannot go. His mom had kept something from when he was a child, when his dad had died. And his mom said to him that, look here, take this and you give it to him. And then see what happens. All of you are near him now. I don't even need to recite a musibah. Take your tears tonight to Jannat al-Baqi'. I have not been to Jannat al-Baqi' now for nearly 10 years. Wallah, I miss Jannat al-Baqi' so much. And there are some of you maybe have not been to Baqi'. Tonight, make your niyyah that this tear, I want to be in Medina soon. Why? So I can cry next to Hassan bin Ali. What does that great alim say? Who said, I saw Imam al-Hassan and Imam al-Hussein in my dream. Imagine, he said, I saw two of them in my dream reading a musibah to each other. Imam al-Hassan looking at Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, talking to him, he says to him, my brother Hussein, is it fair that they poisoned me but they beheaded you? Allah, listen, this is a wonderful dream. And I'm not the type of person who normally brings dreams on manabir, but this one broke my heart when I heard it. Imam al-Hassan tells him, is it fair, my brother, is it fair that they poisoned me, but they beheaded you? But the soft-heartedness of Imam al-Hussein, that he turns around and he says to him, my brother Hassan, is it fair that I have many zuwar who come to visit me? But that there are none to visit you. Tonight, Baqi' is silent, it's quiet. Imagine the sight in Baqi' tonight. How quiet is it in Jannat al-Baqi'? Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that I have many zuwar to come and visit me, but none to visit you? Then what does he say? Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that I have a dharih on my grave and you have a stone on top of you? Is it fair, my brother, is it fair that I have a dome on top of my grave? Allah, look at that dome in Karbala. And you have nothing on top of you. Then he says to him, is it fair, my brother, is it fair? When my zuwar come towards me, they see an alam from far. Allah, but they don't see anything for you. True? All we see is a fence. And that you cannot go past this fence. Make Imam al-Hassan feel his musibah tonight, the musibah of his family. Is it fair, my brother? Is it fair? Listen to the words of Imam al-Hussein in this dream. Is it fair, my brother? Is it fair? When my zuwar come to visit me, they are welcomed. Allah. But there's none to welcome them when they visit you. Look, when we come to Karbala, how many of us are welcomed in the Mawakib, are welcomed by everyone, yet when you go towards Baqi', you are told quickly, out. Al-Hassan mazloom, no doubt, yes. The dream continues with Imam Hassan alayhi salam turning around to Imam Hussein and says, don't worry, my brother Hussein. There'll be a day when they visit me and they visit Zayn al-Abidin and they visit Muhammad al-Baqir and Ja'far al-Sadiq and al-Baneen. But above all else, they're all looking to hear one thing: the vibrations of a broken ribbon Medina. Allah. Of all the graves that you want to visit, that's the one. Hussein's mother, Hassan's mother, that's the grave you want to sit by. That's the one that you want to be next to. And if she's with us on a night like this, then we apologize. One buried in Medina and another on the earth of Karbala, and Zainab and Sham. What happened to Al Muhammad? What happened to Fatima's children? When he gave him that small letter, but this is your musibah, I leave this with you now. He gave him that letter. He said, uncle, he said, yes. He said, take this. As soon as his uncle took it, Imam began to cry. Why? He smelled the perfume of Imam al-Hassan. He looked at his nephew. His nephew wore that armor. The Maqtal says that he wore an armor. He had a sword in his hand. He had a shirt on. And he had a pair of sandals on. And all you hope is that those sandals don't split. Because if there's a split, he's going to come down. And his mother's heart is about to fall. He came forward and he made it clear to all of them, young man, in tunkiruni fa'ana najlul Hassan. If you don't know who I am, I'm the son of Hassan. Not just the son of Hassan, the grandson of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his family. This Hussein is like a captive in front of you, between a group of people who should be deprived of God's blessings. He turned around to his uncle one final time just to see his uncle smile. That's all he wanted. And especially of all his uncles, Abbas alayhi salam, yes? He looked at his uncle Abbas. He said to him, go ahead. He said to him, you go ahead, this is for you now. Go ahead, do what you have to do. He went out towards the battlefield. He killed a number of the opposition. Before you knew it, the strap of his left sandal opened up. When it opened, he came down to fix it. Amr bin Nufal al-Azdi said, I'm going to take the sins of everyone now and I'm going to kill him. Hamid bin Muslim says, I looked at him, I said, Amr, there are already people who are about to kill him. What's wrong with you? He said, no. This one, leave with me. I'll break the heart of Hussein right now. He came towards him. He struck his head. You saw Qasim fall on the earth of Karbala. Imagine these nights you may be walking where Qasim fell, yes? When he fell, he called out, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Abdullah. Above all else, he called out, Adrikni Ammar, please, my uncle, come towards me and help me. Hamid Muslim says something, wallah, breaks the heart. He said, I saw Aba Abdullah like an eagle come out of the tent. Like an eagle, he came out, he looked for Ammar al-Azdi. He came and he struck the killer of Qasim, yes? That killer tried to ward off Imam al-Hussein, severed his hand. He made sure that he attacked him. The horses came all over him. The next moment, all we saw was Imam al-Hussein sitting next to his nephew's body. Imagine, picture the sight. Imam al-Hussein sitting near his nephew's body. While he was sitting there, he said these lines, "It hurts your uncle that you called him, but he couldn't respond to you." Unbelievable. It hurts your uncle that you called him, but he couldn't respond to you. Or he responded to you, but he couldn't help you. Or he helped you, but he couldn't save you. Allahu Akbar. Imagine the heart of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam. Every mother wishes her son gets married. True. Every mother wishes her son gets married. Ramla was in the tent. Can you imagine when she saw Abu Abdullah carrying him? But worst of all, she saw the feet dragging on the ground. The moment he entered the tent, she fell on her son's body. One of the poets pictures Ramla's scene where, not here in Karbala now, when she came back for the Arba'een. When she came back, she went to her son's grave, and the poet says the first thing she said when she came near her son's grave was what? "Oh, earth of Karbala, don't sting my son's head." Because a mother cannot bear to see her child in pain. She knew there was blood all over there. I mentioned to you, and I'll conclude with this. On the evening of the 11th of Muharram, we all know Umar bin Sa'ad. What did he say? He said, "Sharpen the hooves." Yes. When he said sharpen the hooves, he said, "I want you to trample on the bodies of Bani Hashim, one by one." Ali al-Akbar, his mom's tribe, were in the opposition. They said, "We don't allow." Qasim, his mom's tribe, in the opposition. "We don't allow." Abbas, his mom's tribe, al-Banin, were in the opposition. "We don't allow you to trample. You've humiliated. That's enough. No trampling." Every single person who died had a tribe in the opposition. Allah, you know where I'm heading now. Every single person who died had a tribe in the opposition who said, "You've already killed our son, don't trample on his body," except one. When Umar bin Sa'ad asked the question, "Is there anybody who lies on the earth whose mother and father have no one to represent him?" They said to him, "One." He said, "Who?" They said, "Hussein bin Ali." "Oh, horse riders, ride your horses and trample on the body of Abu Abdullah.